Welcome to Pathetic the Podcast. We are here. If I'm talking first, that means Teddy is not here. He's a little under the weather tonight, but we are coming to you here on a very eventful football week. I'm here with my colleague Jeff. Jeff, how are we doing today?
Mike, I'm doing much better now that we got the news yesterday about Brian DaBoll, which we'll definitely get into. And obviously, happy Veterans Day to all those who have served and who are currently serving now. Without you guys and girls, we don't have the luxury of complaining about stuff that isn't so important. So thank you for what you guys do.
Absolutely. I second that. I was literally going to get to that point, but you took the words right out of my mouth there. But shout out to all the veterans. I think, Jeff, you have some in your family. I have a couple in mine as well from the past. But shout out to all the veterans, past, present, future. Again, we can't do anything without them. So shout out to all the veterans. But we got some news this week. Obviously, we had another giant collapse. We had a Jet victory, but we're going to start with the Giants. Obviously, we had the collapse against the Bears, but the bigger news is we have a coaching change. Jeff, I will leave it over to you. Your thoughts on the change, what's going on, where are we going from here, and where, what's going on?
Yeah, well, first of all, the firing of Brian DaBoll, it just had to happen, right? We were talking about it for the last couple of weeks. But the fact that they're keeping Joe Schoen, it just shows how incompetent this franchise is. Now, I will say this, Mike, I don't think it's a guarantee necessarily that they definitely keep him. If they end up losing out or even just winning one game the rest of the way, things can change, right? But let's just go off the premise that he's staying. I mean, you can make the case that he's actually a bigger culprit than Brian DaBoll is, right? Brian DaBoll didn't draft Evan Neal. Brian DaBoll didn't draft Deonte Banks, who might be the worst corner in the league, right? Brian DaBoll didn't construct this roster with literally zero depth. The only reason why this team is actually watchable at this point is because of Jackson Dart, who, by the way, let's not forget, Brian DaBoll had to sell Joe Schoen into getting, right? If you watch the draft room video, Schoen appeared to be hesitant, dare I say, even against getting Dart. So, yes, Brian DaBoll had to get fired. That was a given. But this idea that Joe Schoen is walking away from this completely unscathed is a joke, right? He owns that same record that Brian DaBoll does over the last 4 years. But listen, nevertheless, here we are, right? Now, the big question, the fun question we tend to ask ourselves, Mike, every 4 years for both of our teams.
Yep.
Who's next, right? Who's the next head coach? I think it's too early to put together this full list of names that we want or that we think can possibly be candidates. My top two, Gruden and McCarthy. But I'll tell you this, Mike, I'm going to throw a little curveball, dark horse at you. Mike Tomlin and the Steelers may be parting ways. That's another name that could be added to the list. But again, it's way too early to develop a list. But one thing I do know, and I think you'll agree with this, the Giants are going to be a very attractive job for any head coach, right? Because
Absolutely.
They have, at this point, the promising quarterback. I think promising is actually doing him a disservice. I think it's beyond promising. And, one of the hardest things to do as a bad franchise, and you and I know this all too well, it's to sell an experienced coach on why they should work here. And we saw this with the Jets and Mike Vrabel, right? He was using the Jets as leverage to get the Pats job because they had a quarterback. The Giants will be the hot ticket this year. There's no question about it. But, like I said, I don't want to get too much into who I think they're going to get because I really don't know, right? There's no hints yet. We've seen some names thrown out there, which I don't like. I heard Antonio Pierce, no thank you. I heard Cliff Kingsbury, no thank you. I'll end it on this. I will be furious if the Giants don't land a coach that has head coaching experience and an experience in winning. I don't want the hot offensive coordinator. I don't want the hot special teams guy that's going to be the next Harbaugh. The Giants are in a very delicate situation with this quarterback because you cannot ruin – he won't get ruined because he's too good. But you can't ruin the team with a bad coach with this quarterback. So it is experience, and that's it. No
Yep.
hot coordinators. It has to be experience.
I agree. I agree with you 100%. It's got to be somebody who knows what they're doing, who can take this guy and bring him to the next level because he's already shown you that he is there. He has the intangible things that you want in a quarterback that you can't teach and you can't develop, but the things about being smart about when to run and how to run and to be, pick your spots to do that. That's something that a coach, an experienced offensive mind is going to be able to give to him. Now, I will disagree with you a little bit on Joe Schoen. Obviously, I would agree with you on a lot of what you said when it comes to um, the personnel decisions. I think the Saquon one is one of the bigger ones that's out there. Obviously, that video of them talking and Mara saying, "I hope he just doesn't end up winning a Super Bowl with the Eagles or whatever," and Shane's like, "No, we have to do this," and he goes off for a 2,000-yard season is not great, but you got to have some sort of continuity going forward. You can't start over with a new regime here, especially with the quarterback that's there. I think you got to give him a chance to pick a second head coach. I don't think that it's something that is too much to ask. I think if you have too much change with both, you have to hire the GM first, and then you got to get the coach, where you're not really getting a chance for that GM to go in and maybe have the first pick of whoever it's going to be, because if they pick a weird GM, that might be a turnoff for the coach, where Shane can now go out and start talking to people today about who is going to be the next coach. So he can start his search right now and really be thoughtful about it and build a staff and everything else that you want to do, that you're going to be able to do there. So obviously, I'm with you with McCarthy. I'm with you with Gruden. I think they both would be great here. I hear people talking about Belichick. I don't think that's going to happen.
No.
I don't want him anywhere near that. That's a circus that is not what you want here. I think the New York media would be foaming at the mouth to have Bill Belichick show up there. But, I'm with you on McCarthy. I'm with you on Gruden for sure.
Yeah. It's interesting with Shane, right? Because look, I think he's been horrible. In fact, I know he's been horrible. The record speaks for itself. The draft picks speak for themselves. He's had a couple of ones that landed, but for the most part, it's been horrible drafts. And I don't like splitting up the GM and the head coach, right? Because it just doesn't work, right? We saw it with Gettleman, right? They kept him, hired Shermer, and it does, or Judge at the time, and it doesn't work. Like I when I'm getting rid of a coach, especially a DaBoll and Shane who came in together, this was a collective failure between both of them, right? So I'm not a fan of splitting up the administration. I'd rather get rid of all of them. And by the way, listen, he just hasn't been good enough, right? That's really to me the issue. Now you mentioned Belichick. I heard that name today. We hear Belichick every 4 years with the Giants. He ain't coming here. There's
No,
no shot, right? He
no,
may
the
want to
chance.
come here. Yeah, he
Yeah,
may want to, but I mean, first of all, with this new, the girlfriend he has, she'll be having an affair with Jackson Dart by week 3. We don't need that, right? We don't need her, walking around the field, yelling at Evan Neal for having his socks too high. It's just so many
yeah,
distractions, and the game has passed him by,
yep.
beyond passed him by. So I don't see that happening. Um, but listen, like I said with Joe Schoen, I don't think his job is etched in stone. He still can lose his job if this season really gets out of hand. If you're seeing the talent, the well, at this point now, not even the starters. There's a lot of backups in the depth that he doesn't have, the depth that he doesn't get. If we see them really epically fail continuously, there's nothing stopping John Mara from saying, "Yeah, let's just wipe the whole thing clean and start fresh." But time will tell. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, I think part of the reason why they kept him is, like I said, they want to have that continuity where he can search for the coach, because if you fire a GM now, you're not going to put in a GM tomorrow. You're probably
Mhm.
going to have to wait a little bit to get a GM in here, and that GM is going to have to hit the ground running and be like, "Where's my? I have to go find a coach now." Where now he can just focus on All his job is to get a coach at this point. You have the quarterback, you have a great wide receiver, you have a great running back. You have three skill positions that you have guys who next year should be ready to go and be ready to rock here going forward. You got to work on those other depth positions, which he'll work on as well. But you don't have to worry about drafting a quarterback now. You don't have to worry about who's my stud wide receiver. You don't have to worry about who's going to be my running backs because you have those three pieces in there. You got to build that defense a little bit better. You got to find a defensive coordinator who actually knows what he's doing because I just don't understand their scheme with the guys they have. The Giants are always a team that needs to blitz the quarterback as much as possible, and that's how you win in this league at this point is to
Yep.
blitz. So, and the other thing I will say about the Giants is I don't want to see any more of Russell Wilson. I'm finished with him. He is retired. Go off with Sierra and go do whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
If Jackson Dart is not able to play because he's in concussion protocol, the season's over. The coach is gone at this point. Give us, the fans, something. Let Jameis Winston go out there and have some fun for a couple of games. You might have a game where he throws 4 or 5 touchdowns to I don't know who, but you might see him throw, 3 touchdowns to the Giants and 2 to the other team. It'll be fun to watch. It'll be
Yeah.
entertaining because Russell Wilson he's
No.
finished at this point. Those throws when he came in against the Bears where it was painful to watch.
Well, what you see with Wilson, and listen, I was first team all Russell Wilson from the beginning of the year, but what we're seeing from Russell Wilson now is a guy that just doesn't want to play anymore. I think he wants to win. He didn't go out there just to go out there, but he's protecting himself. He's nervous, right? He's not playing at a high level right now because first of all, he's older. Secondly, I just think he knows he's done. He's probably not going to another team next year. He's checked out, right?
Yep.
And I agree with you 100% on Jameis because, like I said earlier, the only reason why the Giants were even remotely watchable, they were actually very watchable, was because of the quarterback. Jameis Winston, who is not as good as Dart, is probably just as watchable as Dart is for a different reason. So, I don't want to watch Russell Wilson this week. I may not even watch it if he's playing, man. It's going to be a horror show. Put Jameis in there, which, by the way, they're probably going to do. It makes all the sense in the world because Jameis is content with being the backup next year. He actually said that. So let's give him a little, showcase here. Let's see what he's got. And I'm in. I'm in for Jameis Winston.
Yeah,
100%.
Yeah, but you can't. If you have Russell Wilson and Green Bay is playing the way they've played the last 2 weeks with no offense, and you have Russell Wilson doing no offense, I'm going to fall asleep at 1:00 on Sunday because it's going to be terrible and it's going to be cold. It's going to be miserable in MetLife. It's not going to be fun there whatsoever. There's going to be a lot of Packers fans in that building, I have a feeling. So, and a lot of empty seats, I think, as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. It's like I said, the only reason to watch the Giants right now is the quarterback. So let's get him in there. We can't watch Russ again. There's no reason to. He's done. They can just get rid of him right now if they wanted to. There's no reason for him to be here except maybe for some support. Every time Jackson Dart came to the sidelines, he's helping him out. He's doing everything he can to help Dart. I think that's genuine. I think he truly does want to help him and do what he can. But as far as playing on the field, I don't think anybody wants to see him, and I don't think we will.
No, I don't think Russ wants to see himself out there. I think he didn't look interested at all when he went out there before. But should be interesting on Sunday. We will have that. But before we get to Sunday, we have to talk about the other team that had quite a victory on Sunday against the Browns. That is a game that the Jets typically lose 99 out of 100 times when their quarterback does nothing. We've seen this show a lot, but to actually have a couple of special teams plays that come out and win, and you see these guys are playing hard. You see Will McDonald playing really, really hard on there, and you see Quincy Williams, who got demoted and his brother gets traded away. He all of a sudden is now motivated again. And you see some of these guys starting to buy into Aaron Glenn. And you see Aaron Glenn pumping up Breece Hall after a couple of big runs when they're putting the game away. This game on Thursday is going to be very interesting when they're playing New England. I did not see this coming. I'm very excited about it because, again, you're starting to build things. You're starting to see some things. Now, obviously, Justin Fields is not the quarterback. I don't even know what to say about him at this point because you somehow won a game where he throws for 54 yards, which is like 1940s football. But somehow you win because of your special teams. So I'm excited for Thursday night. I'm going to be all kinds of jacked up, ready to go for Thursday. But let's see what happens. Jeff, what are you thinking about the Jet game on Sunday?
Yeah, well, before I get to the game on Sunday, let's look at the last two games and think about how important those two games were for Aaron Glenn and the Jets fans, by the way, because I think I could speak for you here, Mike. The last thing you wanted was to have Aaron Glenn win, let's say, one game, or dare I say zero, which we were talking about for the last
Yep.
couple of weeks before the Bengal game. You don't want to be weighing out the options of getting rid of him after year one or running into the risk of keeping him and then having another bad year. Now, this isn't an endorsement of Aaron Glenn because I think you'll agree we still have to see more, but at least it put to bed this thought of, potentially getting rid of him after the first year, right?
Yep.
Now we're fully expecting him to be back without any question. The Jets will finish with a handful of losses probably the rest of the way. Probably have a top 7 or 8 pick, but I also think that they're going to squeeze out just enough wins to say, all right, listen, this wasn't a good first year for Aaron Glenn, but we do see a little bit of progress in this team and his coaching, right? And you also have a general manager that I think knows what he's doing, which tells me, yeah, I mean, and he tells me he's probably going to get the right quarterback, right? Whether it be through the draft, free agency, which I really don't prefer. I'd rather the Jets draft a
Yep.
guy because we've seen them do this free agent test and it never works.
No.
Get your guy, get it in the draft. But, listen, man, this was, like you said, a very important win for the Jets. They won a football game where Justin Fields threw, I know you said 54 yards. It was really like 15 yards because he had the one screen pass to Breece Hall that went for like 40. Right?
Yep.
So
exactly. He was like 10 yard, like 7 for 10 for 15 yards or something like that before that. It was terrible. I mean, he's certainly don't think you're going to be seeing him going forward as the quarterback. You know that at this point. But I agree with you, Jeff, that this GM has pulled a masterful class on how to rebuild a team pretty quickly. You took two assets that you had that probably were maybe a little bit overrated in terms of what you got for them. I think what you got for Sauce and what you got for Quinn Williams, I think those two things are going to set you up really well. The couple of pieces they got in those trades that are on the roster right now, I think are going to be players going forward. And I trust what he's doing. I mean, you saw he hit on his first round pick with Membo. He's been an unbelievable offensive lineman to start with. So I think, I'm going to think he's going to find somebody who'd be the quarterback. Whether that is, I'm hoping it's in the draft, like you said. But if you could put together a trade for a Joe Burrow or someone else who wants to go out and start fresh because they're going to have a great draft pick and they really love one of these quarterbacks, you have the capital to do that and still probably have a first round pick going forward.
you mentioned Joe Burrow. That's a tough one for me because obviously Joe Burrow, talent-wise, is, I mean, man, you can make the case the most talented quarterback in the league. Certainly top 3. But the problem is, if you're going to get Joe Burrow, which I'm not saying they are, but let's just pretend they do, right? You're giving up a lot for a guy that gets hurt every year. And, Jet fans, rightfully so, will be screaming when this guy gets another injury. He's out for the year after giving away 3 first-round picks. That's why I don't want to get a free agent. And especially Joe Burrow because of the injuries. That scares the hell out of me if I'm giving up that much capital. Basically, everything you got in return, most of it at least, is going to go towards him. But you also want your homegrown guy, right? There's something special about, like, I'm experiencing it now with Jackson Dart, right? The guy that you drafted, Not that somebody else drafted that you traded for because you had picks, but somebody that you get that you it's like baseball, man, like the
Yep.
homegrown player that we love, right? You want that just from an emotional fan standpoint. But I also like the quarterbacks in this draft for the Jets. I love Fernando Mendoza. I think he's NFL ready. If you watch the game against Penn State, that drive
Yep.
down the field was an NFL type drive. And there's a bunch of guys in this draft that the Jets can look at, and they have the capital, like I said last week, to maneuver around and get essentially whoever they want. Because I don't think any team in this year's draft, if the Jets want to get one of these quarterbacks, there's nobody that's I don't think anyone's really sold on 100% to where all offers are off the table to move up,
Yep.
right? So if the Jets want Mendoza, which I think they should get, they could probably find a way to get it done with what they received for Williams and Sauce.
And a
So
lot of those teams that are in front of them right now too are not going to get a quarterback. Tennessee is certainly not going to take one.
mhm.
Cleveland probably isn't going to take one because they have like 4 first round, rookie quarterbacks on their roster.
Yeah, crazy.
Cincinnati's not going to take one with Burrow. There's teams that are down there and New Orleans might not take one because they probably like what they're seeing from Shuck there that is pretty good. So there are teams that are down there that probably don't want a quarterback and might be willing to trade back to the Jets spot if the Jets win a couple of games here and they end up picking 8, 9, whatever they want to do. There's an
Mhm.
opportunity there to move up with that draft capital that you have. So, they're in a pretty good spot right now. We'll see what happens on Thursday. I just hope we've seen so many times when the Jets are on national TV, they embarrass themselves
I know.
almost every time that they're on national TV. Between the butt fumble, the fail Mary, pick
I
six, the going the
I
other way on Black Friday,
I see ghosts.
the Aaron Rodgers blowing his Achilles out, Sam Darnold seeing ghosts, Zach Wilson doing what Zach Wilson does. They find ways to embarrass themselves. So obviously I'm hoping to beat the Patriots because I never want to see the Patriots win. They need to calm it down a little bit in New England. They're getting way too ahead of themselves right now for a team that is, I don't know who on that team has any playoff experience. So I would trust, if they're playing Patrick Mahomes in the first round, even if the game's at Foxborough, I'm still probably taking in a guy who's won in the playoffs versus that New England team. So they got to cool it down. This is not Bill Belichick, Tom Brady, Gronk kind of team right now. They
Right.
could be going forward, but let's cool it on the first year.
Yeah, I'm very sold on Drake May and obviously sold on Vrabel. But yeah, I mean the AFC, you have to get through a gauntlet of experienced playoff quarterbacks. So to expect the Patriots or Patriot fans may be expecting to have this crazy run in the playoffs, I don't see that. Only because again, look at the guys you got to get through, the teams you have to get through to ask a second-year quarterback to do that. It would be a crazy feat. It really would. I mean, if he did that, it would be phenomenal. But if you get through one, you got to get through the other. Then you got to
Right.
get through the other. It's not like you have any breaks. The NFC, you have some breaks. Like Jalen Hurts, he's good, but he's no Patrick Mahomes,
Right.
right? So it's a little bit of a different,
Yeah, you're probably
task
playing
to get
Sam. You're
through.
playing Sam Darnold. You're playing uh, whoever's winning out of
Goff.
the South. You're playing, Goff, who is, not the, or Stafford and uh, Goff in Detroit. So,
Mhm.
there's not really much in terms of experienced quarterbacks. But in the AFC, you're probably going to have to play Mahomes. You're probably going to have to play Lamar Jackson. You're probably going to have to play Josh Allen. And depending on how the rest of the season goes, those games might be on the road, which, a lot of those places are not easy places to play in the bitter cold in even Foxborough is not going to be, a balmy 75 degrees in the playoffs. So, you know, I hope we can put a little something into them to just get them back to, uh, you know, bring them back to reality. Like, guys, this is not Tom Brady. He's not here yet. He may get there. I don't think he's there yet. But we'll.
What's the point spread on that game? The Jets and the
Uh,
Patriots.
it's actually moved up now, so it was 10.5 when it opened. It's now Patriots minus 13.5.
That's a big
Um,
number.
it is a
That's a
very
huge
big
number.
number. So, we'll see. I'll be locked in on Thursday. I will probably put up a video Thursday night, win or lose. I'm hoping, like I said, I just don't want them to embarrass themselves. If they come out with a tough game and they put a little scare into New England and say, hey, this is probably, you know, something that they want, they need to reevaluate themselves, then I'm all for it. So,
Hey man, listen, if you can pull off one of these upsets, I was telling you before the show, in the first 2 week or the next 2 weeks, you're not going to beat both the teams, the Ravens and the Pats. You're going to lose at least one of the games, probably two, right? No shade, just being honest. You're probably going to lose both. But man, if you can pull off one of these upsets, it changes the course of everything, man. Right? Because the rest of the season, the rest of the schedule isn't crazy, right? I don't think the Jets are making the playoffs, but forget the draft pick, man. Like if you can rack up a bunch of wins going to the end of the year with this brand new coach, that is like you want to feel good. I'm sick and tired of being like, oh, let's lose out. Let's get the draft pick. The Jets and Giants have had the good draft pick for the last 10 years, and look where they are, right?
yep,
The best years are the years we win, right? So I don't care what the draft pick is. If we're mathematically eliminated, who cares? If you're a Jet fan, you should be rooting hard for wins every week and not, oh man, that's a bad win because now we're gonna have the 10th pick instead of the second. Who cares, right? Get the wins. You feel much
yeah.
better on Monday morning, or in your case, it'll be Friday when you get the win, not the loss.
Oh yeah, and anytime you could beat the Patriots, I don't care what. I don't care if the Jets were 0-10 at this point. I always want to beat the Patriots every time and twice on Thursday. So I'm all in on them to beat the Patriots. Um, you know, go Jets. We'll see what happens, but I'm looking forward to Thursday night to see where this team ends up. So you know, so with that, um, any other games you thought were kind of crazy this week, Jeff? I thought Buffalo is got some real issues going on with losing to the Dolphins. After coming back and beating the Chiefs, the week before. But I think there's a lot of mediocre teams out there. There's certainly no juggernaut in either league that I think is the Super Bowl favorite right now after 10 weeks.
Yeah, the Buffalo game was the one, because it was just I usually it isn't surprising when you see a division game, go a direction where you're, I guess surprised. To me, I really wasn't, but when I watched Buffalo, what really came to my mind was how many problems they have. Obviously they have the quarterback, we know that. I don't love the coach. I'm going to be honest. I'm not a huge fan of the coach. I never was. I think he's riding the Josh Allen train, to be honest with you. But the Bills have some problems. But, join the club. There's a lot of teams in this league who have a lot of problems. Like you said, there's no juggernaut, which I think makes a better league,
Yep.
right? When you have, look, the Chiefs will probably win the damn thing like they always do, but they're not
Unfortunately.
juggernauts. Yeah,
Yeah.
but they're not juggernauts, right? Like they usually are. But to me, that makes a more exciting league. I'd rather have a bunch of mediocrity than have mediocrity and like one or two juggernauts to where they're going to be in it. I couldn't even predict outside of the Chiefs who's going to anybody can beat anybody.
Yeah.
So but yeah, that Bills Dolphins game was wild, man. Like when I saw the score, not the final score, but during the day, I'm like, what the heck's going on? They were getting
Yeah.
shut out at one point. I'm like, geez, but that's the NFL this year, man. We say this every year, but it's a very bizarre year.
Yeah. Yeah. I for sure. I mean, the one guy I will say is really kind of turned things around is Sam Darnold up in Seattle. I mean,
Unbelievable.
they are throwing the ball all over the place. They are having a great year. They are running away with that division because San Francisco's hurt. The Rams are, you know, kind of up and down a little bit, but you know, Seattle's the real deal. And the more times they can wear those throwback uniforms, I'm all in for those royal blue and the silver helmets. Those those bring me back. So, if they keep wearing those, then I'm in. So,
Yeah, and the Giants throwback too. Speaking of throwbacks, they got to keep going with those too.
yeah,
I like, even though they always lose in them, just the way they look compared to their new
yeah,
school jerseys. I
I,
love all the old school jerseys, all of them.
yeah.
I wish they'd bring them all back.
Yeah, I love. They should put those two uniforms, the blue and the white. Those should be their primary uniforms. If they want to throw the red one as a throwback for the Super Bowls, sure, go ahead and do that. But if I think of the Giants, I think of the dark blue helmet with the Giants on the side, and the royal blue, and the white with the blue road jerseys. Not this red whatever. I mean, you did win 2 Super Bowls in those jerseys, but you also won 2 in the other ones, and that's what a lot of Giant fans our age certainly think of when they think of the Giants.
The only reason the red jersey is good is because of the Super Bowl. It is one of the ugliest jerseys you'll ever see,
Yeah, and it's
but
not their
it just
color. They're
brings you back
big
to the Super
blue, and they're
Bowl.
wearing red.
I know it's
I don't
weird.
get it. But
And plus, the Giants, the old school. It just reminds me of the LT days. Not that
yeah,
I was alive for it, but it reminds you of Lawrence Taylor.
oh yeah,
So I think they're going to bring those back at least 80% of the time. I think
yeah.
maybe the rest of the year and hopefully
Just
most of next year.
do what the Jets did. They realized that the fan base loved the old uniforms, and they made them the primaries. And
Yep.
they have the Namath ones that they wear once a year as a throwback. But you think of the Jets, I think of the uniforms they have right now, and
Mm-hmm.
that's the way they should be. And I love that they brought back all the old uniforms: the Patriots, the Buccaneers, the Seahawks. All the Broncos looked great the other day against the Raiders with those orange uniforms and the blue helmet. Bring them all back. That's what I say.
I agree.
So, with that, we will switch over to picks for the week. We will start with my Mikey Mush pick from last week. We went 2 out of 3 as we typically do. We had Slavia Sofia win 2-1. One of the locomotives won 1-0, and one of the locomotives lost 1-0. So we got 2 out of 3. As we like to say on this podcast, we pulled a Jeff. We got 2 out of 3. So I will go ahead and pick us a pick here. We will go over to the Czech Republic table tennis. I'm not sure what's going on there, but we'll find us a match for over the weekend. Let me grab
Have you
them
done
here.
table tennis this year or no?
I don't think I have yet. I have not gone to table tennis yet.
I don't
but
think you did because I would have remembered that because I definitely would remember because usually the sports are so wild. That's a more normal one. I don't
yeah.
think this might be the icebreaker for table tennis. I like it.
Let me pull up the odds here because I have to find them on one of my, off-brand European sites in order to find one here.
You got to hit C translation when you're looking
Yeah,
up these odds.
exactly. So we'll come back to that. I'll find it here in a minute, but we'll go to our NFL picks first. Jeff, you had a fantastic week last week. I believe you went 3-0. Teddy did not have a great week last week. He went 0-3. So I believe you two guys are now tied for the lead when it
Oh
comes
man,
to
I
the
didn't know that.
picks. And I am slightly behind you guys. I went 2-1 last week. Won with the Eagles and Seahawks, lost with the Bills, as we talked about. But Jeff, let's hear your picks first. Then I'll go to Teddy, and then I will finish us off with my 3 for the week.
All right, so we're all close. So these next few weeks coming up are huge. So let's get off with a bang here. I'm going to start with the Ravens -7.5 over the Browns. It's a big number, but the Browns are just utter garbage. And I know it's a division game, but I think the Ravens take care of business very easily because the Browns are probably deflated after last week. The Ravens with Lamar back are back. So give me the Ravens destroying the Browns. Second game, we're going to go over to the Lions +2.5 over the Eagles. The Eagles' offense just isn't great, and I think they're going to fire their offensive coordinator. And Mike, just off topic, real quick, you know what I think is going to happen, and this is going to be the worst for the Giants. Brian DaBoll is going to be the offensive coordinator for the Eagles next year, and he's going to win a
Ugh.
championship there. That's just, I could smell it, I could see it,
Yep.
but their offense just isn't good, right? So the Lions, they'll probably beat them, not handedly, but I think more than 2.5. Even though I think they'll beat them by 7 actually, by about a touchdown. And then last game, we're going to go to the Cowboys, who I picked a lot this year and had some success. -3.5 over the Raiders. That is a Monday night game, which typically Dak plays very well. He's very good in prime time. It's an indoor game, so the Cowboys are going to run amok offensively. I know their defense stinks, but so do the Raiders, right? So
Yep.
I think that'll offset each other, and you're going to see Dak and the Cowboys smack around the Raiders offensively. So there you go. We got the Ravens, the Lions, and the Cowboys. Jeff's week, what are we at? 11? Week
Yes.
week 11 picks.
All right. So Teddy did text me the picks here for this week. I feel a little nervous saying these, especially the first one. He's taking the Jets plus 13.5 against the Patriots. I think that's self-explanatory why he's taking them. I would tend to lean that way. I'm not going to take them with my picks, but I'm glad Teddy at least had the gumption to take them here. So plus 13.5 for the Jets. He is also in on the Lions as well, plus 2.5 against the Eagles. And he is also going to take the Kansas City Chiefs. Where is that game here? All right, minus 3.5 at Denver. So probably something along the lines of not trusting Bo Nix. That's an interesting one as well. So Teddy's got the Jets plus 13.5, the Lions plus 2.5, and the Chiefs minus 3.5. Teddy's picks for Week 11. I have my 3 picks. I am with you, Jeff, on the Ravens minus 7.5 against the Browns for all the reasons you said. I think Cleveland is beyond done, and the fact that it's only 7.5 says something. But hopefully we're not ending up in a Bills situation where that. But I think the Ravens are really good, and I think Cleveland is washed up at this point. So give me Baltimore minus 7.5. I'm going to ride with Seattle. I'm going to take Seattle plus 2.5 at the Rams. I think Sam's just going to keep it rolling. The Rams played very well in San Francisco, but I think that Seattle is the team this year, and I think Sam Darnold is going to win the MVP over a lot of these other guys. I think he's going to continue to throw the ball, and he's got weapons, and keep rolling there with Seattle. And then I will also take the Chicago Bears plus 3.5 against the Vikings. I don't trust the J.J. McCarthy and number 9 or whatever he's doing over there. I don't trust him. Give me the Bears. I think Williams continues to his magical run. You saw what he did at the end of that game against the Giants. So Seattle plus 2.5, Ravens minus 7.5, Bears plus 3. Mikey Mush's picks for Week 11 in the National Football League. Now, I cannot find a table tennis line, so we're going to pivot here. We're going to go over to, where is it? I just had the lines up. We're going to go to Brazilian basketball, I think, is where we're going to go. So, what are we going on here?
Brazilian So is this regular basketball just in Brazil, or is it just
the Brazilian basketball league?
Okay,
yes.
So it's a regular
Okay. Regular basketball. We're not going to the Passaporte that we did the last time with the baseball and everything else. We're going to go with actual regular Brazilian basketball. Let me grab the ones for this weekend. There we go. So I'm going to take Rio Claro to beat Moji on that game is on Friday night. So give me them. I'm going to take Brasilia to beat Cruzeiro, also on Friday night. And then I'm going to take Vasco over Barro That game is on Saturday. So give me Rio Claro, give me Brasilia, and give me Borrow. Mikey Mush's Brazilian basketball picks for this week. Jeff, this was fun. Teddy, we hope you're feeling better. Again, happy Veterans Day to all the veterans out there. And let's have some fun this week. There's no more, hoping for things to turn around this week for football, but we just hope we have a fun week. So enjoy it, and we'll catch everybody soon.
Take care, guys.